Hello, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our first live artist series interview. We do have Chelsea with us today, and we are super excited to get to know more about her and her journey, and also the headbands that we just released for her artist series. So, Chelsea, welcome once again to the artist series, and we're super excited to hang out with you today.
Happy to be here.
So I would love to start by just getting to know you a little bit. I would love to hear kind of a little bit about who you are, a little bit of your backstory, and then we'll kind of progress into how you got into art and all that kind of stuff. But first and foremost, who are you?
Well, hi, my name is Chelsea. My new last name is Fickus. I got married in January, so I should probably highlight that. It was amazing. Perfect day ever.
Congrats. Yeah, awesome.
Thanks. So I am a military veteran who has gone back to school. If you read my blog, you'll see that I was in the Air Force for 10 years, and now I'm going to become an elementary school teacher. And so that's kind of my main job. And then on the side, I have a small art business where I create custom trays, paintings, and anything else I kind of want to. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Initially looking at the release and some of the artwork that you did for that release, it's been so cool to kind of see the whole process as far as where we started and kind of now here we are with these beautiful headbands that have came out of this partnership, and it's just really exciting for I think both of us. And so I would like to know, why did you pick art? You mentioned your military background, things like that. Did you just immediately know that art was your thing, or kind of what route did you go to find that?
Yeah, so my mom was my one of my biggest influences as an artist. She did everything from graphic design. She illustrated children's books. She's done portraits, charcoals. At the zoo, like, my mom is the woman drawing the animals, and people are in crowds. It's happened in real life multiple times. I don't really go to the zoo with her anymore because we're grown-ups, but I was always like, wow, Mom, let's go somewhere else. But no, she's definitely my inspiration. And like growing up, I always relied on art to heal and cope. I used poetry a lot. And so my sister and I kind of had that together, as we write poetry and we get all emotional as little teenagers. So I guess art's always been an outlet. And then when I got out of the military, it was just kind of finding the right outlet.
Yeah. And we had talked a little bit off camera before, and you mentioned you had tried some woodworking, you had tried some baking and things like that. And so, yeah.
Woodworking is I have hands down to the carpenters out there, because it takes a lot of work and it requires a lot of tools that I just didn't have all the tools. We did go to Home Depot and buy like all the power tools, but it's still just not enough. You need so many more. But I did build a desk. It's downstairs in my house. It's doing well. And then I did baking, and that was delicious, but not healthy. I think my husband and he was my boyfriend back then, but we put on a lot of weight. It was our fat stage as a couple. And then I kind of found painting, and it stuck. It became my niche.
Yeah. And so I would love to hear more about the style of painting that you do. Kind of like a little bit about the process as far as start to finish.
So with a canvas, I am measuring the canvas itself and figuring out kind of how much paint I'm going to need to cover it all. I have a few time lapses on my Instagram. I think this one is actually made on my Instagram. And sometimes I have to like run away and make more paint if I don't measure enough. So, and then for trays take less paint, but it's a whole process. So I hand stain. There's some cooler stained ones, but like I hand stain all my trays, and then I do custom paintings inside them.
Oh, cool.
And this took me a while, because I had to figure out the right amount of paint to not have to pour any of it out, and for it to dry smooth and level. But when it comes to a project, I look at the colors first, and then I make my paints. I take heavy body acrylics and I mix them with a pouring medium until they're like a honey consistency. Okay. I want them to be fluid and move, but I don't want to lose my pigments, and I don't want to lose the actual consistency of the paint. And then I just kind of make an image and I stretch it, and I don't have control over what the image will look like. I just have control of how it turns out. So if I move too fast, I could ruin it. If I move too slow, it won't stretch enough. So there's a lot of different variables and factors, but it's always an experiment, I feel like.
So how has your process changed from when you started? I'm sure there were some rough patches as far as kind of figuring out the craft a little bit. And you mentioned, like measuring paint and selecting your canvas and having to do different things for those canvases. What was kind of some of the progression that you took from when you first started this craft to where you are now?
So I had to learn a lot about different color theories and how I could layer my paints together without what in the acrylic world we call like mud. So if you have two really pretty colors that are on the opposite end of the spectrum, like yellow and black or purple and orange, you have like a really dark, cool color and a really hot color. When they mix, if they don't go smoothly, they'll mix together and form this ugly gray. And I call it mud because it's like I can tell looking at another painter's painting if they mudded. Like if there's some aspect where they move too fast, because like almost all of my paintings at the beginning were mud. I had to scrape so many of them. I've wasted so much paint. I'm sorry for the environment. But I learned, I've been doing it for about 3 years now. Excuse me, 3 years. So it's taken me a while to figure out how to make the smoothest paint, how to mix it thoroughly, not to have clumps in the canvas, or there's lots of ways to go wrong, but going wrong taught me, I guess, how to do it correctly. So it was all necessary.
And I would assume that, with any kind of art, whether it's music or, you even kind of joked about baking, things like that, there's so much personality in like your environment that I feel like comes out inside of some of those art pieces. And so do you feel like specifically with some of the artwork that you've done with junk that some of your environment or your mood played a part in creating those paintings?
So this headband is called Space Raccoon, and it's from a tray, and the tray is like a rainbow, bright, happy tray, and it's one of my favorites. I sold it to a really good friend of mine, but it was made on like a happy feeling. So like all my bright, beautiful like colors that are all big and bold, those are all, I guess, when the weather's nice or when my head space is nice. And then like sometimes I go really dark, and so I like have a lot of dark pigments and blacks and purples and blues, and I get really into like the jewel tones. And so I guess it reflects my mood. And then also my friend Sam does this as well, and I feel like looking at my works of art compared to him, you can tell it was by a woman. I don't know, I feel like there's like a woman's touch into it. Like my color palettes tend to be slightly more feminine than his. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does. And that was going to kind of be my next question. Like, how do you pick the certain color palettes that you pick in order? You mentioned not wanting to make mud, so I'm sure there's some skill and a little bit of knowledge that goes into selecting those different colors to go together. But is there anything particular that you kind of go through with your mindset as far as selecting some of those colors to put them together?
Yeah, so when it comes to trays or art that I know is going to go under resin, I really focus on the opacity of the paints and how they'll interact. Not always so much on color, but if I have like a translucent paint or I have a pearlescent or an opalescent paint that I know or metallic that I know when the light hits it, it's going to change and kind of provide like a 3D effect. So I take that into account too. Sometimes I don't know if I can see them if they're in my reach, but I have some pigments that I bought, they're mica powders that I've turned into paint, and they change with the heat. So if you put a hot coffee cup on my painting changes. And I just it's just kind of experimenting and pushing to see kind of where I can go next or what I haven't done yet.
Cool. Well, if somebody's wanting to potentially get into, starting to make artwork, whether it's your specific kind or any kind of artwork, do you have any suggestions for somebody who's trying to learn your craft?
Well, there's no such thing as ugly art, especially when you're starting. Even though you can mess up and learn better techniques, you should still try. And I think this is a medium that a lot of people could do. You don't have to, it's abstract art. So it's kind of whatever you want it to be and whatever you see it to be. So start simple, start with maybe some primary colors being red, yellow, blue, or pick two colors that are similar, like a dark purple and a light purple, and then throw in like a blue or a pink or something that you think would go pretty with it. because it's really all about what you see and what you want the art to look like. I think that's what's cool about abstract art. You're not wrong. You can't be wrong, like you're creating. Just get out there and create.
So Chelsea, one question I wanted to ask you is, what does it mean to have your artwork on a headband? Beforehand, we kind of talked about the process and kind of how we got here, but what I want to hear just kind of your insight a little bit as far as where this all started and the bits and pieces with the partnership that kind of came of this.
To me, it's bewildering because I've been a junk customer since like 2013. I have a bunch of junk headbands that I worked out in. I used to be really into the CrossFit community. I kind of fell out of that. Now I'm just like my own garage gym junkie. But it's crazy. I don't my husband asked me this morning and he was like, did you think that like your art would be on these headbands? Because he wasn't a junk customer before he met me, but he is now because he wears my headbands all the time. And like I have y'all's clothing lines, I have jackets from you guys. When I was deployed, I bought a bunch of junk clothes. Like it's pretty cool. I feel like, I don't know, it's pretty big to me. I think it's really cool too that it's helping such like a cool organization, and it actually goes back to charity. Like I don't make anything. I'm not trying to make anything off of these. I just think it's cool that my art's getting out there. Like that's just, I don't know. It's big.
No, it's awesome. And from what I understand, we actually we partnered to pull these pieces from true pieces of artwork that you've already created. Is that right?
Yes. So for the fishnets headband, it is actually from an acrylic edge tray. So if you, so it's right there.
Yeah.
It's in this little portion. And when I made this tray, I was experimenting with a new mica powder. So it's got I don't know if the camera will catch it, but it's got really pretty glittery flakes. And it's really cool because the glitter in the headband comes off as little specks. And I was just really excited to capture that. And then the strawberry fields headband, which is the pink and purple one you see, was pulled from this painting. And so this is a painting on canvas. And so I digitally scanned those. And so that's all from this portion right here. And then Nebula Man comes from this tray. And that's Nebula Man right there. And I actually titled it that. It's a painting that I'm going to be putting in a tray. And I actually titled it because I see a face. And sometimes you don't really see actual images in the abstract art, but sometimes you do, and I'll never unsee this face. So that's why Nebula Man is titled Nebula Man.
Cool, Chelsea. So with your artwork, we are gonna donate the proceeds to a nonprofit of your choice. I would love to hear more about that.
Yeah, so I chose Puppies Behind Bars. So they are an organization that actually utilizes the prison system and the inmates to train service animals for disabled veterans, retired police officers, retired service members. And it's really cool because I love dogs. It's near and dear to my heart. I got 3 big ones. And I know that in my times of darkness, if I didn't have art, I definitely rely on my dogs. And if I didn't have my dogs, I don't know where I'd be. So I think that this charity is such a cool thing because the dogs get to rehab the inmates, and then they also get to affect these service members and these people who need them to get by. And it's just, I don't know. I spoke with Puppies Behind Bars and I was like, hey, you guys want to do a social media push? And they're very modest. They don't really ask for donations. That's not who they are. They just do the mission. And they were like, it's okay if you don't want to pick me because we won't push it on social media. And I was like, no. I'm picking you because of that. That's amazing. You're really just more concerned about getting the knowledge out, getting these dogs into homes and saving people. So I don't know. It made my choice feel so much better when they said that. I was like, yes, let's go.
Yeah, from a fellow canine lover and owner, I think it's really cool. And I'm happy also that you selected them as part of your partnership. So I think that's really cool. So last but not least, how can people one, follow you, learn more about you, whether it be on social media, things like that. And then also, we mentioned potentially some of these art pieces being able to be put up for purchase as well. Would you like to kind of share a little bit about that?
So I'm pretty active on my Instagram, Chernobyl's Acrylics, and my husband and I have set up an Etsy that's going to be launched at the end of this week to purchase all the trays.
Cool.
And then just reach out to me. I do commission pieces. If you have a color palette you want to see, if you want a big piece, little piece, I'm all about making art. I really just sell them to fund my habits. So I will work with you. But no, it's just Instagram is where I'm really heavy. We do have a Facebook, but it's mostly on the Insta. So reach out to me there.
Well, awesome, Chelsea. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today. I think the collection turned out beautiful, and we're really excited to be a part of your journey and help the partnerships that we've kind of aligned with this launch.
Yeah, no, thank you. I'm so excited. I can't wait for everybody to get these headbands on your heads and work out in them and see how awesome and efficient they are at keeping the sweat out of your eyes, because these aren't just pretty, they're great headbands. There's a reason I have like 15 in the other room throughout the years.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with us today, and we'll catch up again soon, okay?
Awesome. Thank you.